Jaya Radha Madhava. Just give me a D. Give me a D between the two black notes. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana. Yamanatira Vanachari. Yamanatira Vanachari. Anjaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Mr. Pad Paramahansa Parivajaka Ashtotter to the Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajaka Acharya Ashtotter to the Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaiṣṇava Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktavrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this fourth day of May 2026 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in Canto 9, Liberation, Chapter 20, The Dynasty of Puru, text number 22. Retodha Putro Nayati Nadadeva Yamakshayat Tvam Chasya Dhata Garbhasya Satyam Aha Shakuntala. Retodha Puttanayati Nadadeva Yamakshayat Tvam Chasya Dhata Garbhasya Satyamaha Shakuntala. Retodha Puttanayati Nadadeva Yamakshayat Tvam Chasya Dhata Garbhasya Satyamaha Shakuntala. Reto dha putanayati nadadeva yamakshayat Tvam chasya dhata garbhasya satyamaha shakuntala. Reto dha putanayati nadadeva yamakshayat Tvam chasya dhata garbhasya satyamaha shakuntala. Reto dha putanayati nadadeva yamakshayat Tvam chasya dhata garbhasya satyamaha shakuntala. Reto dha putanayati nadadeva yamakshayat Tvam chasya dhata garbhasya satyamaha shakuntala. Ladies? Reto dha putanayati nadadeva yamakshayat Tvam chasya dhata garbhasya satyamaha shakuntala. Reto dha putanayati nadadeva yamakshayat Tvam chasya dhata garbhasya satyamaha shakuntala. Anyone online? Huh? Yeah, usually there's someone there. Not today. Reta daha, a person who discharges semen. Putraha, the son. Nayati, saves. Nadadeva, O king. Mahārāja Duṣmanta. Yamakshayat, from punishment by Yamarāja, or from the custody of Yamarāja. Tvam, your good self. Cha, and. Asya, of this child. Dhata, the creator. Garbhasya, of the embryo. Satyam, truthfully. Aha, said. Shakuntala, your wife Shakuntala. Translation. O King Duṣmanta, he who discharges semen is the actual father, and his son saves him from the custody of Yamarāja. You are the actual procreator of this child. Indeed, Shakuntala is speaking the truth. Purport. Upon hearing the omen, Mahārāja Duṣmanta accepted his wife and child. According to Vedic Smriti, Punnamno nadakadya smad pitadam trayate sutaha tasmat puta ati prokta swayameva swayambhuva. Because the son delivers his father from punishment in the hell called Put, the son is called Putra. According to this principle, when there is a disagreement between the father and mother, it is the father, not the mother, who is delivered by the son. But if the wife is faithful and firmly adherent to her husband, when the father is delivered, the mother is also delivered. Consequently, there is no such thing as divorce in the Vedic literature. A wife is always trained to be chaste and faithful to her husband, for this helps her achieve deliverance from any abominable material condition. This verse clearly says, Putro nayati nadadeva yamakshayat. The son saves his father from the custody of Yamarāja. It never says Putro nayati mataram. The son saves his mother. The seed-giving father is delivered, not the storekeeper mother. Consequently, husband and wife should not separate under any condition. For if they have a child whom they raise to be a Vaiṣṇava, he can save both the father and mother from the custody of Yamarāja and punishment in hellish life. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and to all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. So this son turns out to be Bharata. I think this is a different Bharata, though. This is not the Bharata, if I'm not mistaken, but he is a very exalted soul. And it's amazing. We're watching this series of, I should say, complications, to say the least, arising from the attachment of man for women, and so many things. Starting out with Pururava and Urvashi, remember? He became overly attached and suffered for it. So this is the latest one of these, and I guess it's kind of here at this point a happy ending. Duṣmanta the Omen has spoken the truth. It's really your son, and he will raise the son, and the son will be very exalted, and both he and his wife Shakuntala will be delivered from Yamarāja, from suffering in hell. So this is science of procreation, and also hellish and heavenly planets, and how to avoid one and go to the other. That's mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, it's spoken here, and it's all leading up to the 10th canto. With the 9th canto, as we went through the 9th canto, we encountered many lists of descendants, and if you go into the book, you'll see at the end they took great attention to prepare a family tree, you know, like with who's who and so forth. It's at the end, you can see the lines developing there. And of course, as we learned, Yadu was also born. What was his father's name? Who remembers? Huh? I forget. But he's the Yadu dynasty, and Krishna appeared in the Yadu dynasty. So he's coming at the end of this canto. I think I shared a wonderful verse about his face. Yasyananam makrakunda charukarna brajat kapola subhagang suvalasahasam nityotsavam natotapurja sabhibabanjo nayo narashtra mudita kupitanamescha. So it's describing how the residents of Vrindavan, they would relish just seeing Krishna's face. Makara kundala charukarna, with the beautiful shark-shaped earrings dancing on his ears. And beautiful ears. Brajat kapola subhagang suvilasahasam, and filled with playful smiles, his beautiful smile shining like this. So it's a wonderful introduction, you know, to the 10th canto. And we're coming near that now. And if you recall from the Krishna book, Pariksit, when Shukadev finally gets to the 10th canto, is as Nibritta Tarsha, Rupagiyamana Babashidat Shrotamano Biramat, Kahuttama Shloka Gunanavara, Pumam Varajadivina, Vashugnat. Probably this is one of the only verses Prabhupada quotes in the Krishna book, right at the beginning of the introduction. So what it says is, Nivritta Tarshaya Upagiyamana, when your glories, the pastimes and qualities named for them, are uttered and chanted by those who are free of material desire. Trishna is a word for thirst or desire. Nivritta Tarshaya Upagiyamana. In other words, when pure devotees of yours sing your glories, Bhavaushyadat Shrotamano Birana. It serves as a medicine for curing the disease of birth and death. Bhava Aushadi. And it's not a bitter medicine. It's very, very delightful for the ear and the mind and so forth. That's what the Hare Krishna mantra is. Bhava Aushada Shrotamana. Kauttama Shloka Gunanavarat could give up such hearing this. Guna, the qualities, pastime, name, and form of the Supreme Lord. Puman Varaj, except for those who are Pushugnat. Pushugnat means two things: animal killers and eaters. That's the first thing. And the other is those who are killing the soul, basically impersonalists. You know, they don't like to listen to the Leela. So this is a wonderful introduction. It's practically the first verse of the 10th canto, and it opens up. Now here's what we've been waiting for after all going through these 9 cantos. So, but this is a very serious topic here. The relation between man and woman in Vedic culture, and the importance of raising children, especially sons, daughters of course also, but sons especially, because they are called putra by being very pious and good devotees and worshiping and performing the Shraddha ceremony. If you hang out with Dharma Setu at all, he's always got people wanting to perform that Shraddha ceremony in this area. He flies to different states and does it. Why is it so important? Because that Shraddha, which is of course based on the word Shraddha, faith, but it's a ceremony in which you offer prasadam, actually, if I'm not mistaken, to the forefathers, pitris, and that helps to deliver one and one's children, I think, from hellish life. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but it's very, very important and very auspicious. So that's known in Western culture. No one is doing that. But it's understood that, it's all based, if you go to the Bhagavad Gita, what's the first instruction Krishna gives, right? You're not that body, right? In other words, you're a spirit soul. Dehinosmin yada dehe. Just as you have transmigrated in this very body. Everyone here was once 8 years old, once 8 years old, I assume. And some of you can remember something about those days, right? Some memories are still there. So we were the same person, but we had completely different body, completely different mind. Not completely different, it grew into this, recognizable. But it's different. And Krishna says, and we keep going, and we keep going through middle age, old age, and finally we leave the body, which is just a machine, just finally, wears out, or whatever, by accident, enemies, whatever, but it dies. And then you get another body. So we've been doing that since time immemorial. But by Krishna's grace, by the mercy of the super soul, who says, was it from me come knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. Does anyone want to try to think what an incredible PTSD we'd have if we had to remember all those deaths? All those situations where we died from this and this animal and this car crash and this poison. And we'd all be nuts, So we forget. But it's important to know that we went through them. And it's important to know that we want to end this. That this is an important motivation for taking up spiritual life in general, is to get free from samsara, from imprisonment and birth, old age, disease, and death in various bodies. But interestingly enough, in bhakti, that can serve as a motivation to get on the path. And that's why Krishna says in 13th chapter, 8 and 12, there's all of these list of elements of knowledge, you may remember. Who remembers what the very first one was in Grijamani? Yes, humility. Amanatvam, adambidvam. Because we have to approach a source of knowledge, a spiritual master, to really receive it. And we have to recognize our helplessness. We don't know. Who am I? And if I know I'm a soul, well, how do I act? What do I do? What do I hear? What do I see? What do I eat? In order to form the consciousness where I'll get liberation, you see. So one of those elements of knowledge, janma, mrityu, jara, vyadi, dukkha, doshana, darshanam. To see, to be aware of the Prabhupada says evil. And one of my, and Vijay was saying, well, why is the evil, Well, if you look it up in the dictionary, evil can also mean simply a source of suffering, not necessarily, nefarious, which is what it often means. So the inevitable pains of birth, old age, disease, and death. Now, I assume we've all forgotten birth. It's described. I remember when I was amazed, I think it was the 3rd canto, where Kapila Dev is describing, and it's described there how the living entity enters into the womb and then it grows and what's going on. How did they know that? 5,000 years ago, There was no science, there was no X-ray machines, but they was describing it. Anyway, we want to try to avoid that, if possible, you see, just on a visceral level. But Bhakti is such that that's an inducement. That could get us serious it's a serious business. Developing Krishna consciousness, developing our understanding of our relationship with God, and aspiring always to rejoin Him in the spiritual world, going back home, back to Godhead. But that's not the end of it. If that's only our desire, then we're in this category of mukti kama. There's a nice verse, I think Lord Chaitanya is teaching Sanatana Goswami, who is really peaceful. And it goes, Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Ataeva Shanta. Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakali Ashanta. That the devotee is really peaceful. Why? Because he has no material desires. As soon as you have material desires, that means you feel you're missing something. And then the problem is you may fulfill a desire, but it's not what you thought. It does, and then it ends. And that's why Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Yehi sangsparshita bhoga dukkha yonaya evate. He says those who are intelligent, in the rest of the verse, they don't take part in the pleasures that are derived from the contact of the senses with the sense object. In other words, in summary, sense gratification. Why? Because such pleasures are the source of all misery, and they have a beginning and an end. Unlike spiritual pleasure, which is ever expanding, eternal, and there's no downside. It's not, isn't that wonderful kirtan was so ecstatic. Now I got to get the reaction, I'll be braced for it. No. The reaction is that you're at a higher level, you're blissful, and you want to give it to somebody else. But in material pleasure, there's always a satiation point and reaction. And the biggest reaction is when you enjoy something in this world, materially, either on the gross level or the subtle level, mental, you plant a desire seed to do it again. That's the whole principle of advertising, to try to plant that desire seed in you in those 20 seconds they have to get you when you're riding on the highway and they got you with the billboard there, Somehow attract your attention and hope that you don't get an accident. And plant that desire, okay, I'll buy that car next time, Or anyway, that's the whole idea. So, and the greatest advertising, Maya is the biggest con artist. She's perfected that. It presents all these things just attractive to you, the opposite sex, this thing to eat, a million different things. And if you don't have any understanding that this is not good, let me chant my rounds, then you're simply helpless in this world. And you end up getting addicted, not necessarily to some drug, that's also there, but to a different kind of sense gratification so that that you're used to. But then what happens? When the body finally runs out, expires, the time expires, those desires are there in your subtle body. The mind, intelligence, and ego. Those are not slain when the gross body is slain. They carry the soul to the next body, kind of the template for the next body. It may not even be a human body. And that's the basic principle of Vedic understanding, not even just for bhakti, but any kind of yoga. You want to get out of that. So, but if that's all you want, then mukti kama, and it's condemned by Prahlad Mahārāja in those very words. Prayena deva munayo swava mukti kama, maunam chadanti vijanena parartha nishta. So Prahlad is the ideal devotee. Did you see the movie? It's a wonderful movie. Very nicely done. And so he was to the point that even when his father threatened him, and he had, they were trying to kill him and throw him, they put him in the vat of oil, he just relied on Krishna. He just was completely absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, come what may, whatever you want, Krishna. And it wasn't that he wasn't killed, he wasn't even hurt. He wasn't screaming in agony there, he was just, in bliss, thinking of Krishna. Protection. So, but here Prahlad in his prayers, he gets some very important instructions. And near the end of his prayers, Prabhupada would often quote this one. This is about what a real devotee feels, a Sankirtan devotee, a follower of Lord Chaitanya, who had two motives for coming. as Lord Chaitanya. From the very beginning we learned that. One was his desire to spread the Sankirtan movement for our benefit, to save the souls. And the other was his own personal motive, Krishna said, so I can relish my own beauty from Radharani's point of view. He saw his reflection, it's described in Dwarka, he saw his reflection, oh, I can't conceive of such a beautiful person. But then he realized that, I can't really relish this, but Radharani can. So he came in the mood of Radharani to understand his own qualities through the lens of her perfect love, to understand her feelings when he loved her, and to understand the glory of a love, the three. So that's his own personal, motive. And but what the other one was for the benefit of the world in general and for all of us to spread the Sankirtan movement, the Hare Krishna movement, so that people could be delivered from suffering. So similarly, in our own life as devotees, we want to go home back to Godhead. But if that's all we want, we want to be liberated for those, then he's being condemned by Prahlad. What do? Maunam charanti. They're silent. The word muni comes from the word mauna, means silent, because they generally keep silent. They're always meditating, these munis, So these maunam charanti vijane, they wander where there's no people. They go to the Himalayas, the forests, just let me be alone. Maunam charanti vijane, napararta nishta, not determined at all to help others. It's completely self-centered, and that's why it's called mukti kama. But Prahlad says, I'm not like them. Naitan vihaya kripana vimamuksha eko. Simply desiring my own soul, mukti or mukshu. I'm not like that, my Lord. He's speaking to Lord Nrsingadev, who's in his Komala position. Don't think that he's like that, as soon as he sees Prahlad, his heart softens, my dear Prahlad, lifts him up, touches his head, puts him on his lap, So he's addressing that, Nrsingadev. Because there is no one who can save these people who are suffering, but you. And I see that I have to be your agent. Prabhupada's famous phrase, transparent via medium. In editing, we took the via out because via medium is a way. It's a different phrase. But what do you mean? It's a transparent medium by which Krishna can reach out to you. If Prabhupada hadn't come, what would we know about Krishna? What would the hippies know about Krishna? Nothing, something they picked up, and they wouldn't know the actual thing. So Prabhupada, out of his incredible mercy, he took on the burden of coming to the West in his old age, and ill health, having going through several heart attacks and all this. But he was successful. He was empowered by Krishna to do what he did, and give us this science by which one can aspire to go home back to Godhead through the process of Sankirtan, which means spreading Krishna consciousness to others. So you're both delivering yourself and everyone who can take the science, and that's why we're sitting here. So back to King Duṣmanta. So the Bhagavatam, Lord Chaitanya has recognized the Srimad Bhagavatam as the real and most important commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. That's why he didn't write a commentary, and none of his devotees did until Baladev Vijayabhushan. There was a whole story behind it with how in Jaipur, the Govinda deity, some of the priests were criticizing devotees because they didn't have their own Vedanta Sutra, a commentary. So Baladev Vijayabhushan, he was the main acharya at that time was Vishwanath Chakravarti, I believe, but he was in old age, and his disciple Baladev Vijayabhushan. Now Vijayabhushan is an epithet that you earn, means decorated with knowledge. In other words, he was very learned. He was deputed, you please write it. So he didn't feel really qualified yet, so he prayed ardently to Govinda, and eventually I think the garland fell down, he felt he got the benefit, but he called it Govinda's Bhashya. He felt he was just the scribe, that Govinda was writing it, really. So he was inspired. So we do have our own commentary. But the more important commentary is the Bhagavatam itself. And there's so many echoes, in the Bhagavatam of the Vedanta Sutra, like the first words, Janmad Yatsya Yaton Bayad. The first or the second sutra. The first one is the Tato Brahma Jigyasa, which also has its echo. That word is also used in the Bhagavatam, second chapter. But it says, Tato Brahma, now therefore, you should inquire into Brahman. And what is that Brahman? Brahman is defined in the second sutra. And it's defined in the very first words of the Bhagavatam. Janmad yasya yataha. That which is the source of everything. That is like a universal description of God, most people's description. Yes, the cause of all causes, the source of everything, which is Brahman. And Brahman, of course, is, Para Brahman, that's the Lord, and we're Anu Brahman. We're also Brahman, but we're little particles of spirit. We're not the source of everything. So that's there, Janma Yasya, but it goes on. What is that? Janma Yasya Yaton Vyadita Tashtartesh Vigyas Tene Brahma Adikaviye. He imparted knowledge into the heart of Brahma, who was just sitting on the lotus. He didn't know what to do, I've been born in this lotus. I don't have any mother or father. I tried to find my origin by going down the stem of the lotus, but I couldn't find it, so he got back up on the lotus. And then what happened? He heard a word 3 times. Who knows? Tapa, tapa, tapa. And he knew what that meant. It means austerity. He says, okay, I got to meditate. So he meditated for hundreds of years. And Krishna enlightened him with all the knowledge that he needed to do what he had to do, which is to create, and also then to pass it on, pure knowledge, to Narada Muni, and down the disciplic succession till us. That's the disciplic succession. Look it up at the end of the introduction in the Bhagavad Gita. So that's Krishna. He's giving enlightenment to his beloved, offspring or disciple Brahma, and that's the disciplic succession we're in. So when Krishna appeared himself 5,000 years ago, as he says to Arjuna, the disciplic succession has been broken. So I'm speaking this to you, right, in the beginning of the 4th chapter. This is where I come. When yada yada hi dharmasya glanam bhavati bharata abhyutanam dharmasya tadatmanam sajamyaham. That whenever and wherever there are discrepancies in dharma and an upsurge of adharma, glani, adharma, then I advent myself, or I appear, for 3 basic reasons. Paratanaya sarunam, vinashaya duskrim, dharma samstapana, sambhavami yuga yuga. Yuga after yuga, I appeared. To protect the devotees. Perfect example, Nrsimhadev and Prahlad. And to annihilate the miscreants. Krishna, he arranged for this battle of Kurukshetra, where there are big, millions on each side. And to annihilate so much of these demonic armies that had grown up, And so Arjuna was, at least that's the way he arranged it, that he was not ready to do his part at first, as we know, and he had to be convinced. So he was at the end. So we're part of this tradition, and part of it is this very important knowledge about procreation. That's what this is all about. And that the son will save his father from the custody of Yamarāja. And the faithful wife, chaste wife, will also be saved. So that's appropriate. But ultimately, being saved from the custody of Yamarāja isn't really our ultimate goal. It's not even a preliminary goal in Krishna consciousness. That's taken into account. Just come on, a Jamil. He was okay at first, and he got attracted to the prostitute, and he lost everything, and he became a rascal. But he had the good sense of naming his. I don't know if he named his other children after Narayan, but his youngest son was named Narayan, which is a good idea. And then when they came for him, the Yamadutas, he said, Narayan! He's calling his son. And that was enough to immediately bring the Vishnu Dutas to protect him. And then the whole thing happened, and that we learned the importance of the name, importance of the holy name. But I don't know, when we chant Hare Krishna, when Prabhupada would ask, what does it mean? Well, it's a call to Radha and Krishna to please engage me in your service. Right? Isn't that probably expensive? We're calling out to Radha and Krishna. Okay, let me have an intermission here and give you a little insight into how our great acharyas, such as the six Goswamis, are thinking about the holy name. This Hare Krishna mantra, Radha and Krishna name. Many of those who heard me give class here this verse several times. So, Radheti, this is the verse, Radheti nama navasundara siddha mugdham, Krishneti nama madhurāpada dugdham, Savakshanam sudaviraga himena ramyam, Kritva tadaiva pimame rasane chadarte. An excellent, so I put it into a little poem. An excellent fresh nectar drink with endless subtle tastes, such is the name of Radha, by whom all three worlds are graced. Condensed milk that is wonderfully delicious, thick and sweet, such is the name of Krishna, in whom all attractions meet. Now mix these drinks, O thirsty tongue, and add the cooling, fragrant spice of love, a prize the wise will try to buy at any price. And then at every moment drink this beverage most fine, and make my heart supremely blissful, peaceful, and divine. Now the word about liberation, you see, is ultimately, as if you practice bhakti, at a certain point, you come to the fourth verse of the Shikshastika, where Lord Chaitanya says, Nadanam, nadanam, nasundarim, kapitam, vajagadiya ye mama janmani janmani shade babada bhaktina hoidakitvahi. He says, well, these are the common things that people worship the demigods for, okay? Wealth, women, followers, the fruits of mundane piety, going to heaven. Liberation from this world of limitless anxiety. For me, O Lord, Lord Chaitanya is taking the position of a bhakta here. For me, O Lord, these common goals have not the slightest worth. Let me serve you purely now and in each future birth. The service itself, the Krishna, and which begins with the chanting and basically to be always conscious of Krishna, is itself the reward. Whether you're in Goloka or you're here or you're in hell. The real bhakta doesn't care. He says, where hell is heaven if Krishna is there, and heaven is hell without Krishna. So where's this desire for liberation? It's gone. But the real is replaced by the ultimate desire to always be serving Krishna and always being able to remember Krishna. And of course, the devotee also wants to be with Krishna. But if you want that and you're doing that, then Krishna will search you out. You'll feel his presence and everything. And ultimately you return back to Godhead. So that's this line. And the very interesting class last night, about karma yoga and what was it? What is it? Sankhya yoga. Or Jnana yoga, yeah. And I was thinking about that because how did, each devotee has his own story, kind of, unless he's born into the movement. How you got attracted to take up Krishna consciousness, how you became interested, So, and in many cases, I would say the vast majority of cases, you come in contact with a book of Srila Prabhupada's, and somehow, by your good fortune, that's intriguing to you, and you want to find out more about it, And nowadays, even if you're not close to a temple, you just hit the right buttons on your computer, and you can get onto a site, right? But the point is, it intrigues you, it attracts you, it's interesting, and you want to pursue that. So, in my own case, I was raised as an Orthodox communist. Yes. But so family, we were lapsed Jews, that was, I didn't really. And my father, I was like in high school or 8th grade, like that. And he would sit me down at the kitchen table, pull out from the closet his English translation of Das Kapital. And he would read for me, the Marxist teachings, as a sacred. And, huh?
Marxism and socialism is making a huge comeback.
Oh, good. Well, it's interesting. My problem is to say, well, this is the spiritual communism, from each. And then when there's a phrase I remembered. Luckily, I forgot almost all of it, but it was from each according to his ability, to each according to his needs. Down to the like Varnashram, Just do your duty and, with your propensities, and you'll be supported. Anyway, but I was the main thing, I was a dyed-in-the-wool atheist. That was the thing. So it's a long story. It's the middle of the Vietnam War. This is where I was very much moved by the plight of the Vietnamese and everything. I went to so many demonstrations, but Nixon got elected, in '68 after all the demonstrating, and the war went on, and it was just so depressing. So anyway, I was living in the Lower East Side, 3 blocks from Tompkins Square Park, believe it or not. But it wasn't '66, it was '68. But the devotees were there. They hadn't yet gone to the Brooklyn Temple. So I had quit school, high school. I just quit the college for the second time. And I had some simple job. I was an ice cream man, believe it or not, for a while, driving an ice cream truck. And but my real happiness was like jamming with these guys at the park. I was a flute player. Believe it or not, I had a bamboo flute, because Indian music was in it, and the Paradox Restaurant, does that ring a bell? If you read the Lilamrita, there was a connection with the devotees in the Paradox Restaurant. They heard about this new guru, and one of them went up there, invited Prabhupada down, and that's how he came. And Krishna's arrangement, he'd just been burglarized. I remember reading, and Prabhupada had lost his taste for living up there, because it was so austere. But this was a new field, so he took the advantage. He came down. But anyway, so I went through this whole thing, and then by Krishna's arrangement, I got a really serious case of hepatitis. I mean, I'm not going to say how I got it, but anyway, it was, they had these street vendors, and one of the things they were vending was oysters, with sauce. I wasn't a vegetarian. And but where did the oysters come from? From the East River, so anyway, they were full of mercury or something. Anyway, I got hepatitis. So I had to go home to my parents' house, and they put me in a hospital for a month, with hepatitis. And it was like a low point. The war was still going on, The only high point was the landing on the moon. I was there in July of '69, and it was shown on the TV. Oh, that's interesting, Anyway, I got home, and I was devastated by this illness, so I needed a way to get my health back. And I was interested in Indian music and Ravi Shankar and yoga and everything. I said, well, let me try this Hatha yoga. Now, I was living on Long Island. There was no, yoga studios at that time. But I got in the Yellow Pages. Some of you are too young, you don't know what the Yellow Pages are. Yeah, and I looked, and in New York, there was this, on the East Side in the 50s, there was a yoga studio. So I started driving in there, my father's car. And lo and behold, who was my teacher? Amala Bhakta Swami. He had this studio. He wasn't Amala Bhakti, he was Krishna Prema at that time. Not Krishna Prema, Shiva Prema, Shiva Prema Swami. So that's where I started picking up the asanas, which are very helpful. And he taught me my first Krishna mantra. What is it? The one we do whenever there's an initiation. Abhavitro va sarvatatkatopiza yatsmare pundarikaksham yabhayam bhyantarachsushi. So pundarikaksham is a name for Krishna. We didn't know what it meant, but he was supposed to chant it, so I started chanting it. Anyway, it'll make a long story short. I went from there to the West Side to Intelgu Yoga, and in their bookstore, eventually, I found, after they moved from Upper West Side to the Village, they had a big studio, a nice bookstore, and gift shop, just like we had. And in there was this big pamphlet that was written, a big booklet, about the glories of the Hare Krishna mantra. Because apparently, Satyananda's guru, Shivananda, had a place in South Africa. There were a lot of Indians who had migrated to South Africa. And it said they'd been chanting this mantra, without stopping for 25 years. Now, I bet, during the night they probably had a recording going. But anyway, and there was all these glories of the Hare Krishna. So that's the mantra I should use for my meditation. So I started doing my, meditating. And eventually I met someone and took me to the temple, and I started chanting on beats. And here's another miracle. I was thinking of the various miracles that happened in my life. And so I was stuck in this job. I was an inhalation therapist in a hospital, and so I had the job, had a little apartment, had my car, and had a little bank account. But I was kind of in a rut, and I was thinking, and I'd gone to the temple. I bought this big poster, beautiful poster of the Super Soul. I was very attracted to the one in the heart, you know. If you see it, it's very, very merciful looking. So I said, and I started praying to that Super Soul, please let me give me the next step. Take me to the next step, you know, so I can get. So lo and behold, next day or so, there was a little clipping from a newspaper ad for a job for an inhalation therapist in another hospital, a night shift. I thought, that's what I need, the night shift. Then I'll take a few hours sleep, and then I can drive into the city and go to yoga every day. You know, I was thinking it would be a good idea. So I had some good references, and they, you know, so I started training up, and they took me around. You know, it was a much smaller hospital, hardly a few. And it was at night, most of them were asleep, so there's hardly anything to do. Anyway, so after a week, I was trained up, but I also was like discouraged. I said, no way I can do this, you know. I mean, there's just, first of all, I was sensitized from all of this, you know, because I was following the regs, even unknowing, you know, and I was raw food. I was always eating raw food. So I was sensitive, and there was, you know, ghosts in the hospital. A lot of people die, you know. Anyway, the result was I said, I can't do this. I might as well just join the temple, you know, and chant Hare Krishna. Anyway, that was how I joined. And it was just, you know, such a relief. To be able to, the more you chanted Hare Krishna, the more they liked you, and like that. Anyway, it's getting late. So all of this, you know, is part of the larger importance of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And in a few chapters, we're going to start the 10th canto, and it'll be a whole adventure. Yes, questions. I see you want to ask a question for many minutes.
Yeah, with this, in this purport, I'm trying to figure out, well, in the verse, we're reading that, it's being stated that, this is by the unembodied voice, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's being stated that it is the Son who delivers the Father. And it seems that, and then Srila Prabhupada elaborates on that in the purport, but even going further, just to really emphasize how it's like sex-specific on both, well, on both sides, it seems to be sex-specific, that it's the son, not the daughter, that delivers the father, but it's the son that delivers the father, and not the son that delivers the mother. And
well, not directly anyway. I mean, if the mother is faithful, then she'll also get delivered, but yeah.
Wait, say that again?
If the mother is faithful to the father, you know,
right.
chaste, then she'll also be delivered.
Yeah, and so it seems that Srila Prabhupada even goes in further toward the end of emphasizing it does not state that the son delivers the mother, that the son does not deliver the mother. Only the husband delivers the mother, or the wife.
Yeah.
You know? And so, and then emphasizes, therefore, in order for everyone, for a woman to be delivered, you must stay faithful, must stay with your husband. Because your son doesn't deliver you, only delivers the father. Now, one aspect, it seems, and you mentioned it briefly, is that, well, it seems that this must just be referring to matters of karma. And so when we're saying delivered, it means delivered from hell.
Yeah,
and even, is it all hell or just this particular kind of hell? Put, I don't know.
I think put is a generic term for hell. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But then I think it would, some might suspect that this only matters when it comes to karma. And to them, they might suspect that when it comes to a Vaiṣṇava or a Vaiṣṇavi, then these things wouldn't matter. And so then I'm curious by the way Srila Prabhupada emphasizes, I mean, first, that he really emphasizes that he goes out of his way to emphasize more that the son does not deliver the mother, therefore the mother must stay with the father, and so on. But then says, therefore, consequently, husband and wife should not separate, because if they have a child whom they raise to be a Vaiṣṇava, that child, that Vaiṣṇava, can save both the father and mother from the custody of Yamarāja, or the punishment in hell. But in the first place, one would suspect that if your child becomes, if let's say, if I'm a woman and I divorce my husband and I raise a child and the child becomes a Vaiṣṇava, then I'm already good. Yeah. Then I'm already delivered. And so, but Srila Prabhupada kind of presents it that therefore the wife should stay with husband, because if they can raise a child who's a Vaiṣṇava, then they're both delivered. But in the first place, isn't she delivered if she raises a Vaiṣṇava? Isn't he?
Well, you know, the thing is, there's two things going on.
And I'd even add to it real quick, is that also, she's also delivered if she's a Vaiṣṇava or a Vaiṣṇavi, right? So on that, like, The Vaiṣṇava kind of deliverance, it seems to be a different category.
It's a different
So I'm
category.
not sure what I'm missing.
There's no mention of worshiping God here. It's just in this particular verse. It's the saving from the custody of Yamarāja. Okay, you don't go to hell. Maybe you go to heaven, or at least you stay on earth, but you won't go to hell. That's a long way from going home back to Godhead. In other words, forgive me, I know I'm talking a lot about my own life, but my understanding from reading is that as soon as you start chanting and you're a Vaiṣṇava, you're doing the best thing you could possibly do for your parents. Because they're thinking of you, and when they think of you, oh yeah, my son, yes, you joined the Hare Krishnas. Well, he just chanted Hare Krishna. My father was totally, he's the one who taught me communism. Whenever I saw him, it was always, when are you getting out of that thing? Whereas my mother, she became a subscriber to Back to Godhead and like that. And I remember after my father died, I would visit her, and sometimes I'd chant with her. I'd put on a tape and we'd dance together and everything. And then, like a week before she passed, I said, "Mom, it's time for japa." And I taught her what japa was, and we chanted, together. And I have a recording on that. So, I mean, my father maybe also. Maybe, he's thinking, well, here I'm dying and I couldn't get him out of that thing, that Hare Krishna thing. Maybe he was also thinking of Hare Krishna. So my understanding from all that Prabhupada said and is that he would, the best thing we can do for our parents, for anyone, and even our previous lives, grandparents, is to become devotees. Because there's always a connection there, and one of the things that happens when you leave your body, you're thinking of all those who are dear to you or related to you, so that you'll be in the mix. So I think that it's a different calculation when we're talking about a serious Vaishnava, because that's not what's going on here. Is that the pious, he's gonna save you from put, but ultimately that's not what we're about. That's a byproduct. This is all. I mean, this is the best. And so many parents of devotees, they became really serious, and supporters of the movement, in the early days, and that's better than good. So I think it's a little different thing that's going on there. One is Vaishnavism, and one is this not going to hell.
Yeah, when reading it, I was surprised because I think most devotees who give class that I see, I think they'd be more inclined to explain that. They'd maybe describe this, how the son delivers the father from hell, but then ultimately wrap it up that ultimately these things are a matter of karma. And when you're Vaiṣṇava or Vaishnavi, these things don't really matter. You're going back to Godhead, you're delivered either way. And so that's what I thought was interesting here, that Srila Prabhupada saying that even when he brings Vaishnava into the mix at the end, still, therefore, don't make sure no divorce. Make sure no divorce. Make sure wives stay with their husbands and so on. Because, almost like because you can raise a Vaishnava. Whereas to some would be like, well, because you can raise a Vaishnava, therefore don't worry so much about if you have to get divorced, if you have to.
But it's not clear here. I'm looking at it. When Prabhupada refers to, it seems to be, I get your point. It seems to be mixing two things. One is a totally mechanical process of saving yourself from hell because your son will perform a ritual, but it's not quite clear whether when Prabhupada refers to Vaishnava, because the son is a Vaishnava, therefore by the virtue of that child being a Vaishnava, therefore father or the mother is liberated. That's not stated there. What I'm reading is, I mean, you could perhaps imply that, but it's not clear. But what is clear that if the child, the son, is a Vaishnava, will perform Shraddha. Mm-hmm. You follow?
Yeah.
Now you have a totally different picture. Now it's back to the mechanical process.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyways, as Dravida said it 2,000 times during the lecture today, that the process of Krishna consciousness is not a mechanical process for solving spiritual issues such as moral issues, because you go to hell not because you were facing south at the moment when you were supposed to facing north or something like that. No, you go to hell because of moral issues. Yeah. And ultimately, the only solution is a moral solution, spiritual solution. That's to become a pure soul, rid of propensity to do nasty things, and the soul who loves, divinely loves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everything else is just, patchwork.
Okay, it's late. I think we'll terminate now. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.
Jai Hari Bol.
Why didn't you chant the verse? I don't know. Was it Maitreya? Oh, Vaikuntha, you're right.